Welcome back to the Maranatha Global Bible Study in the book of Revelation. My name is Dalton. Glad to be back with you guys, jumping back in. I just got back from about a month in Spain. It was an amazing time. I was there first filming our new film, Jacob's Trouble. It's an amazing film. We were on a 16th century replica Spanish ship shooting. The film is set in 1565. It revolves around a number of intersecting storylines related to the Spanish Inquisition, the Islamic Caliphate during that time that was waging war for Europe and North Africa and the Middle East. It also intersects with the birth of the transatlantic slave trade and the colonial conquest of Florida. 1565 is when the Spanish and the French first landed in Florida and fought for control of the New World. It's also the year of many other significant events. So this film is our most large-scale production to date, and we're excited for you to see it. We've shot about a third of the film so far, and then this summer, and the reason why I'm telling you about this is so you know what to expect for the teachings moving ahead. We get messages from you guys every day saying, hey, where's this teaching? Where's that teaching? Why the inconsistency? And so I just wanted to give a quick update on that as to why there's been inconsistency lately in the teachings is because we're very, very busy. I've been working on the film. We're also in the middle of opening up new countries of operation for FAI, which is also taking a lot of time to do so. 2 countries that were very dear to our hearts that we've wanted to labor in for a long time. And it seems that now is the time that the door for this is opening up. So you can be praying for us in that. So we're very much committed to seeing through the book of Revelation over the next number of months. We still have a lot to cover. We're in chapter 19, so it seems like we don't have much left to cover because it's only 19, 20, 21, 22, 4 chapters. We've done 19 chapters so far, 18, but the next 4 chapters are heavy. This is the climax. So Joel and I were just talking about it the other day. We don't want to race through this. We want to take our time. And because it's the climax, this is the most beautiful part of the book. It's the most significant part of the book, the most meaningful, the most ultimate, the most weighty part of the book is chapters 19 through 22. So we're very excited to jump back into that. But I did want to just give you guys a heads up. There is going to be some inconsistency over the next few months. My family is going to be traveling to the United States for the Maranatha End Time Summit in July. And so we're traveling in July and August. We're shooting the rest of Jacob's Trouble, a little bit in September as well. We're also kicking into gear Covenant and Controversy 4. So a lot of these projects, this is just the film projects, all the stuff behind the scenes operationally in the 1040 window, the stuff that's not publicized, also takes a considerable amount of our time and energy and brain power. So we're committed to the teachings. Just be gracious with us in the process because there's a lot going on, and we're trying to navigate all that so that we can get through the book of Revelation and start the next book, which Joel and I have an idea of what that will be. But more on that later. What I wanted to do in this session is give a bit of this will be a shorter session. We're not going to dive into specific text per se, but I wanted to give you guys an understanding or an expectation of how we're going to approach this, or not necessarily how. I think if you've tracked with us up to this point, you know how we're going to approach it, just line upon line, word upon word, and let the text speak for itself in its context. But I wanted to spend a few minutes and just talk about why these chapters are so important and why, in terms of diet, this is something that you want to feed yourself on, these chapters. It's just, this is the end of the story. We get interested in all kinds of things in our lives of a biblical nature and a non-biblical nature, but this is the great storyline of our lives, this chapter 19 through 22. This is the hope of everything. This is where everything's going to. So this is not something that you want to be yeah, I heard it, I'm kind of aware of it, or I don't understand it. Because this is also where a lot of the controversy lies, is in 19 through 22. A lot of the theological confusion that has really raged over all of church history is revolving in some part around a misunderstanding or a lack of attention given to chapters 19 through 22. Because chapters 19 through 22 is basically an Old Testament study of the earthly reign of Messiah on the earth. There is not a line in Revelation 19 through 22 that is not a direct or indirect reference to an Old Testament prophecy. This is where we get really, really heavy into Old Testament theology, is in 19 through, the whole book of Revelation leans heavily on Old Testament theology, but 19 through 22 is where the Old Testament, the mountain peaks of Old Testament prophecy really come to, are brought to bear. And so I'm going to keep this one short. I just wanted to give a few thoughts as to why I love Revelation 19 through 22 so much, and why I'm so excited to spend time just poring over every line and every sentence in this particular part of the book. Revelation 19, I'm just going to give you a quick walkthrough. Revelation 19, Joel just spent a number of sessions in the harlot Babylon, chapters 17, 18, the first few verses of chapter 19. By the time we get to 19 verses 6 and 7, there's a shift. We shift out of the Babylon storyline and we shift right into the second coming storyline. So as we talked about before, structurally, the book of Revelation bounces between chronological storylines and non-chronological storylines. And what we're doing now is we're jumping back into a very hard chronology. And what I mean by hard chronology is when you're looking at, say, the Revelation 6 with the seven seals, or the sounding of the seven trumpets, or the pouring out of the seven bowls. That's what I mean by hard chronology, meaning there's no room for interpretation. When it says after the first seal was torn, then the second seal was torn, it's numerical. You know it's in order. And one of the most defining, distinguishable elements of Revelation 19 and 20 is the hard chronology. This happened, then this happened, then this happened. And that's very distinct from something like Revelation 17 and 18, where it's as though the movie's playing and then the Lord presses pause on the movie and says, hold on a second, let's talk about what you just saw. And you talk about it. You go, okay, let's press play again. And you're back into the movie. That's kind of what Revelation 17 and 18 is. It's showing us in a non-chronological way this theme of the reality of the harlot Babylon. It's an interjection. It's a parenthesis that gives us insight into the harlot Babylon and its relevance and centrality in the great drama at the end of the age. So now what we're looking at is the beginning of the events that lead us to the end of all things, the restoration of all things in chapters 20 and ultimately chapter 21. Now, in chapter 19, I love chapter 19 so much. The bloody warrior king returning on a horse, executing vengeance and executing justice on the earth to set in motion the restoration of all things and the establishment of the millennial kingdom. This is everything, guys. This is everything. And I think, I don't know numbers. I don't even want to begin to speculate on this, but the amount of believers that live their entire lives in the Lord and in the body, living disconnected from the storyline of the second coming and the millennial kingdom. Now, what is the millennial kingdom? The millennial kingdom is 1,000-year reign. So we're going to get into this. You say, okay, Dalton, what do you mean by, is 1,000 years literal? Is it not literal? Is it kind of in the middle? What is it? We're going to get into the millennial kingdom in a lot of detail. We're going to scour the Old Testament. We're going to pour over the New Testament. We're going to do deep exegesis in Revelation chapter 20. We're going to answer these questions and go into it. And it's going to be, I think, what I hope will be a very valuable resource for years and years to come, to have this many messages and deep dive study into this subject of the millennial kingdom. We're not going to just pass over, the first few verses of Revelation 20 quickly. I was talking to Joel about it the other day. I said, I really want to spend time on this. And if it takes us a year to get through it, it takes us a year to get through it. But this is such a heavy theme, and there's so few resources out there about it. let's really take the time and give it the attention that it really warrants and deserves. So that's what we're going to be doing, is going through Revelation 19, which focuses on the second coming. Then we're going to get to Revelation 20, and it focuses on the millennial kingdom. Then in 20 and 21, the focus is on the New Jerusalem and the restoration of all things, the end of all things, the kingdom coming, God dwelling with man. Now, in some sense, you could go, okay, that's simple. Second coming, millennium, and then the eternal state. Got it. I guess we don't need to study it, right? It's pretty simple. It's simple, but you have to understand these passages, every single statement in Revelation 19 through 22 is a quotation from the Old Testament. And when you go look at the text from which the statement in Revelation derives from, you see, oh my gosh, there's an entire world in here of information and detail. I'll give you an example. When it quotes Ezekiel 40 through 48, which is one of the dominant passages that John is referencing and recording in Revelation 20 through 22, he's referencing Ezekiel 40 through 48. So we want to take time and go look at it in the same way that, when you read Matthew 24 and he just says, when the abomination of desolation is set up, and you go, where is that? And you go, oh, it's all over the book of Daniel. It's all over the book of Isaiah. And you start studying, you go, wow, it's all over this thing. And it opens up to you. And you see it's not just like a concept. It opens up a whole world of understanding. And this is a world, beloved, that you really want to have alive in your heart and in your mind and in your emotions and in your spirit, is the reality of the age to come. Not just in some kind of ethereal, imaginary sense. You go, yeah, there is an age to come. No, where you can really... it affects your emotions and your spirit. It affects everything about you. And that's really what I want to exhort you with today as we move into this. And just to keep this short and to the point, is that this is the greatest story ever told. The story of the coming of the King. The coming of not only the coming of the King, but the destruction of the evil one. The destruction of the villain of the story. Satan is bound for 1,000 years. The restoration of all things. This prayer that everyone knows, the coming, your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven, your will be done. His will, the climax of his will is Revelation 19 through 22. His kingdom coming is Revelation 19 through 22. So it's not something that we want to just have kind of this sentimental, shallow religious jargon about and say, your kingdom come, but we don't actually know what it means. Revelation 19 through 22 gives us in vivid detail what it means, specifically by taking us on a guided tour of the Old Testament. So there's no way to study Revelation 19 through 22 without going deep in the prophets, without going deep in the Psalms, without going deep in the progressive revelation concerning the reign of Messiah on earth at the end of the age. That's what these last 4 chapters of the book are all about. And, I'm just going to keep this short and to the point and emphasize this point and then wrap this up. If we as believers are anchoring our lives in anything other than the coming of the King, the restoration of all things, we're not living in the story. We're living in a story, might be living in our story, but that story is going to end. Because our story, whether we know it or not, is connected to a bigger story. And that big story is the story. And I meet so many believers all over the world who I feel, I go, gosh, you're just totally disconnected from it. I was with a brother the other day and listening to him talk about his life and just the disconnected. I was just thinking to myself, my goodness, if you only knew where this thing is moving. And I think that's the thing that I'm feeling at the moment is, if we only knew what's coming, how different would we live our lives now? And I think many of our lives are the way they are because we're living out of touch with what's coming. And I don't mean that in the sense of like the Antichrist and financial collapse and famine and the mark of the beast. I don't mean the negative. I mean the restoration of all things. I mean the every tear being wiped away. Meaning that this present suffering in this age is light and momentary. It doesn't matter. When Paul said all this suffering is nothing. It's nothing. We're more than conquerors. It's nothing. I think the reason why we don't feel that it's nothing is because we don't know the weight of glory that's coming. And so I want to just encourage you as we jump into this next season of studying the book of Revelation, looking at this next series of chapters, albeit inconsistently because of our crazy schedule over the next few months leading into the summer, albeit inconsistently, but nevertheless, we're going to be going through this in a focused way. And I just want to encourage you to set your mind on things above and to ask the Lord and to intentionally position yourself for the remapping of your intellectual, emotional, and spiritual wiring. Because the thing is, we get wired. You get, the way that you're raised, the way that you grow up, the school that you go to, the job that you have, the people that you hang out with, the books that you read, the podcasts that you listen to, the music that you sing along to. This wires us in our brains. The conversations that we have every day wires our emotions. It wires us spiritually. And what I want to encourage you is to take the next season and for this issue of the restoration of all things to rewire you. And that looks like saying yes to some new things and saying no to some things. Meaning I'm going to I want to disrupt my life. I want things in my life to be disrupted, and I want to focus on things that are actually going to change the way I think, the way I feel, and the way I live, and the way I act. And ultimately, this issue of eternity is intended to do this very thing. This is why Paul exhorts the Colossians to set your mind on things above, not on things below. Because if it's on things below, you're going to live a carnal life disconnected from the story and disconnected from the things that matter most. So guys, thanks for watching this session. Joel and I are very eager, looking forward to continuing this study with you. And again, over the next few weeks, we'll be on again, off again, and we'll try our best to communicate ahead of time to let you know that there's going to be a break before there are one. For example, we know there's going to be a break when the conference is on. We know there's going to be a break when we're filming. We've got a heavy schedule of filming, both for Covenant Controversy 4 and for Jacob's Trouble. So there's going to be inconsistency, but we will try to do our best to let you know ahead of time. One of the reasons why we don't let you know ahead of time is because Joel and I are always just trying to make use of all the time that we have. So if there's a possibility that maybe we could shoot a session, we try to shoot a session. So anyway, we'll find our rhythm in the days ahead, and we're grateful that you guys are tracking with us. And the last thing is this: if you're watching these messages and you appreciate them and you want to sow into FAI field work, I want to ask you to consider becoming a $5 a month supporter. Super easy. Click on the link below. Put in your details. It's safe and secure. And every month, $5 will go into FAI. And as this collective pool grows of brothers and sisters around the world giving $5 a month, which is not a lot for most people, that $5 is going into a bucket that's being funneled into the hands of workers laying foundations where there are none on the frontier. And this is the core of who we are as an organization, as a spiritual family, as FAI. I want to ask you if you appreciate these messages, if you care about the Maranatha message and you want to see them spread all over the globe, one of the ways that you can do that is by giving towards FAI. You can give more than $5 if you want to. Lots of people do. We're super grateful for that. But that's the vision. Start with $5 and see where it goes from there. Bless you guys. Thanks for watching. And we hope to see you in Dallas, July 13th through the 15th. Go register at MaranathaSummit.com. Blessings and goodbye.